everybody. Welcome in to the Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football. For a June the 11th on a Wednesday, we are ready to get things underway. It's great to be with you, and we got plenty to talk about in terms of Michigan. What those things might be, you are wondering? I don't think you're really wondering. I think you know, if you've been paying even the slightest bit of attention, that recruiting is on fire right now for Michigan. They turned the calendar and they've been just bringing them in. And when you bring one in, you want to know who the next one is, and so on and so on. And so we'll work through that and do our best at getting you up to speed and reading the tea leaves and just trying to figure out what's going on for Sharon Moore in the recruiting class of 2026. This week, Bryce Underwood, you've heard of him, the quarterback from Belleville, the odds on, the presumptive, at least is, I see it, I think others as well, presumptive starter for Michigan in 26, the true freshman pictured on the screen. He dropped a video, and I watched it twice. That's it. I'll watch it a third time, and I will comment on what I see from the youngster, the quarterback, and if there's anything to take out of it, whether it's good or bad. I don't know about bad. I don't have anything bad to say about it. It was all good. But we'll start with the commitments. Michigan is one kind of came out of nowhere. They end up getting a defensive tackle from Liberty, Texas, Alistair Vallejo. Vallejo is a 3-star, 5'7", ranked by Rivals. He's a 3-star, but it didn't seem like a 3-star. I saw immediately when Michigan got the commitment from Vallejo, I saw Trevor McHugh from the Maize and Blue Review. Immediately had watched his film, and he said that Vallejo gave him Mason Graham vibes by watching him. And then I saw Adam Sen, who's also who is our new recruiting, part of our recruiting staff. He's new. Maestro, he was looking at the film as well. He seemed to be very impressed. And then I was just working around, and then I came across, I don't even know who the guys were. They were on TikTok, but they were talking about Vallejo as a prospect, and they were going over him, and they both said, yeah, Mason Graham. So here you go, kid. Not, that's what is, those are the comparison, and that's what people are looking for. Yeah, I mean, those are lofty comparisons. I did not watch the film myself and break it down, so I'm going to take the word for some people, some experts in there that are watching the Vallejo film and reporting back what they see. So sounds like a good one, and that ends up being Michigan's 9th verbal commitment, and that gets them into the top 25. If you're keeping an eye on that, keep a little bit of an eye on that. Keep an eye on across the board where everybody's ranking them. I know you do that. And then on Monday, as we were broadcasting, we go live on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2:00. Right before I was coming on here at 2:00, I saw that there were a lot of indications on social media that Michigan was in really good with this edge, 4-star edge from the Windy City. And then during the show, it happened. Mikhail Blade accepted the challenge and committed to Michigan. And Blade, I have not watched. And you just, some players, I was going to say you don't even need to watch their film. I think you probably want to watch. I mean, if you're a film guy or whatever else, want to make some comparisons. I'm looking at a picture of Mikhail Blade, and maybe it's just his name is Blade. Automatically, I'm like, I'm going to like this guy. And then I just look at his picture and I'm thinking, if he passes the look test, I think Mikhail Blade is one to remember. The Windy City, and Michigan's able to get this verbal commitment. Looks like a great pickup. I was looking at his Twitter page, Blades, and across his banner, he's got a picture of him with his. I'm a wingspan guy, as many of you know, and Blades' wingspan. He's listed at 6'5", but man, you put one of those arms up in the air, and I see him batting down the football. And he's from Simeon High School, the high school that has produced some great basketball talent, including most recently, there's a lot, I'd say most recently, but maybe the biggest in Derrick Rose, who went to Simeon, and before that, Jabari Parker. And if you're old enough, Parker was the number one player. Everybody wanted Jabari Parker. He ended up going to Duke, but there he is, Blade, looking pretty good with the Suns, the skyline of Chicago in the background. Nothing there to not like about Blade. So Michigan is they've had a great week when it comes down to recruiting. How about it? When people ask, I usually like to oblige, and there's Rip Stars asking me to chug the Borg. I mean, let's go. Let's do it. Yaxel, Lendeborg. These times I'm going to fill this bad boy up. It's going to happen, and it bears repeating. You like high school, you like college recruiting, you like the preps and all that with what's going on with Michigan. I do too. If you want to have some fun, sit down and put together Dusty May's starting lineup for next year. And then look at the backups. And then you look at the depth and you think, wow, this is a deep, talented team that goes 9-10 deep. 9 for sure, probably 10. And they look solid at every position. And then they've got a star in a player like Lindenborg. So why people are so excited about Michigan basketball. All right, we take the turn. And now we think about recruiting and what's going on and what possibly could happen. And if you're up to speed, you may have noticed that Zion Robinson, this wide receiver out of Texas, who is going to make an announcement at the end of July, and he's got Michigan, Stanford, and Miami. And right at the beginning of the month, he was in Ann Arbor. Right after that, he dropped TCU from at least dropped them in terms of making an official visit. That makes me feel like he's dropping them out of consideration. They're the local team, in TCU in the state of Texas. So Michigan, Stanford, and Miami. You couldn't spread it out any farther for Zion Robinson from Michigan in the Midwest all the way down to Miami and then all the way out to Stanford. Who knows? I mean, he's got quite the spread there. We'll see. But in terms of wide receiver recruiting, that's going to be one that I think you're going to sit there and just one to keep an eye on until the end of July. Why wouldn't you? That's where it's at, right, Mr. Martini? Let's go. That's what we're thinking. It's like Big 76 Sports. Good afternoon. Jumping in. And if you're someone who's watches this show and catches it live, we'd like to hear your feedback. What you're thinking about Michigan. If you got any question, I got an answer. Might not be the one you want. It might not be the correct one, but I'll have an answer. I'll have an opinion. Go ahead. Ask me something. Get in there, and I like to tell everyone it's, 99% Michigan. Once in a while, there's something else that happens, Lions or, whatever, NBA, golf. Maybe in the summer it goes to 2%, where there's something else, maybe a movie or a series or something like that. How about that? So if you can think of something that you want to ask, fire away. Now, in terms of how things are going and you follow recruiting, if you follow it, yesterday was an eventful day. I was sitting online and somebody said, "Look at how things have changed. Look at how things have changed for this wide receiver prospect out of Georgia, Brady Marchesi." And he looked like, he was verbal to Georgia, but then there was some change and it looked like he had flipped to Michigan. There was no announcement, but it was such a drastic change in the odds and everything for people that follow it. It looked like something had happened there that Michigan was going to be able to reel them in. And then no sooner than that was out there, I was like for about an hour or two, then it flipped back. So how that ended up playing out in real time, was it Michigan that made him an offer and he was like, "Hey," called somebody up and said, "I'm really thinking Michigan now." And then Georgia got wind of that and then got back on the phone and said, "No, whatever they're saying, whatever they're offering, we're saying the same thing. We're offering the same thing, maybe even more." And they flip. I don't know. That was those aren't bad guesses. I don't think so. It was looking really good for a minute, and now it's not so looking so good. But it would also be one if you were willing to flip pretty quick in June, then maybe you want to keep an eye at least on that name, Marchesi, when it comes down to recruiting, and you'll go, "Oh, that was the guy that for a second looked like Michigan was going to get, the kid out of Cartersville." And then maybe they end up getting, see if they can get a flip. Top 50, wide out, 4-star out of Georgia. There you go. Some of the other guys. Now, this is about as big a fish as you can get. Ojo. Felix the Cat. Ojo. 5-star offensive tackle. Michigan, Texas, Ohio State. He just visited Michigan and he said Michigan is one of those programs where the offensive line is the heart of the program, and without them, the rest of the team wouldn't function. That's what Ojo said. And the other part is that it's kind of small on my screen. I apologize. I did read the comment. He was talking about visiting with Bryce Underwood, who went through all of the, when you're a 5-star top 10 prospect in the country, you got everybody coming at you, and he was able to talk about Underwood, about that experience. And hey, Michigan's in with a chance here. They have great class of offensive linemen right now. And so there's, I guess it depends how you want to look at it. Let's see how I'm going to look at it. Michigan's got all of these fantastic offensive linemen that are, and some of them true, like Babaloa, who could be the starter at left tackle for U of M, and they've got him across Haywood, who's coming in, also highly thought of, a bunch of players like this. So do you think that if you're another tackle, you say, "Oh, well, they're getting great tackles," maybe they would wait a year, to stagger it, for playing time? Or are you just building this machine, or you just keep bringing them in and finding a spot? The first thing that I want to say is that you just take and recruit great talent wherever you can get it, and then you just keep going after it. And because Michigan has done so well offensive line wise over the last 4 years, then you keep in these recruitment. The other thing, though, is that there's at least it sounds like a little bit of a salary cap. There is, where in terms of the house settlement and the money that the school can pay, but then you also have the the other part, which is still NIL, but it's got to be cleared. So how much? And so if you have a salary cap, maybe you can get close. I don't know. I don't know what I think the salary cap is going to be interesting in the clearinghouse for NIL. It'd be like with Bryce Underwood. You say we're just going to have him star in a movie. That's why we're going to give him 8 figures. Is the clearinghouse going to be like, okay, checks out? I'm waiting for the first. No, you're not getting 10 million for. You're not getting 10 million for starring in a Maize and Blue Review 60-second commercial. It's not gonna. That's not it. So whatever it's going to be, we'll have to. We'll go through. We'll get some of those questions coming up. A couple more on recruiting. Then we are going to watch that Underwood video. This weekend's a big one. A big one for the running back Hyder, Savion Hyder. He was just at Georgia. He's down to Tennessee, Ohio State, Georgia, and Michigan. But I think Michigan, this is their number one target, certainly at running back. But I think overall, if you had to say who's their number one target, who's the number one guy, if you could ask Sharon Moore, if he could have any player, who would he get? I think this is the guy that he would pick. I don't think they do things like that. There's a lot of players that they want. They don't want to put all of their they don't want to put everything in one basket, right? So eggs, I guess it is. I would put all their eggs in one basket, but this is to be the guy that they would want. And Hyder, and I think Michigan fans, it's the same way. Hey, who's the one guy that you want right now? It is Hyder. So that's what it is. Let's see. We'll go through it. Anwar, the author of a book that I'm reading right now about high school basketball in around the Buffalo area. Any word about last week's proceedings? You know, there was something that came out. I was going to look for my phone, and I can't find it. That's weird. Let's go to the phone finder, see if it's sitting around here. It's not within reach. It's across the room. The Charlie Baker, is he the president of the NCAA? Obviously, I'm not reading his exact quotes. He did have something to say, a little blurb about the proceedings. He was not in attendance. I think he had a wedding this weekend. As I was reading about the House settlement and how he was running around telling everybody about the House settlement and everything else. But so no, he was not in Indianapolis, but he said that there were, but how did he deem it? Thorough discussions. He said for the most part, everyone that wanted to say something was able to say something. And then the part that was news to me, he said he would expect a decision from the Committee on Infractions in the next 30 to, he put 90 days. And 45 days is what, I had been saying for the last month, because that's what, when you looked it up, that's what it said, around 45 days. So then, but it could be any time before that, but then right up into the 45 days, which I thought was around July 22nd. But now here's a Baker saying, no, it could be even 45 days more, which would be right around the start of the season. Now, when you start playing that out, and it felt like with a lot of these other ones that the news, it almost felt like it was a little, I don't want to say vindictive. Yeah, maybe that's accurate. Because it was placed, Michigan headed to the Big Ten meetings, not a whole lot to talk about. Hey, Jim Harbaugh, here's a little something to talk about. Hey, getting ready, it's the start of the season, everything else. Oh, here's a little something else to talk about. So I don't know. I was hoping that they were going to come together. I'm hoping that it's closer to the 30 days than the 90. But what, that's hope is the only thing I can do about it. I don't know anything else around that. I'm thinking that no news is not good news right now. I would like to see them just come out and say yes. We're taking the 2 games that Michigan offered up. Here's the sheet in terms of what they're going to have to deal with the recruiting violations and the fine. and we're off. That's it. And then they'll have the two little games that Michigan wanted, games 3 and 4, and then we'll be done. The longer it goes, the more it seems like it could be more games. The longer it goes, it seems like maybe it would be something. I'm still in the camp of that there's not going to be any vacated games or no postseason ban. I keep saying that. It almost feels like I'm wading into the territory where I even think there's a chance. I don't. My biggest thing out of all of this, 2 games even seems like it's too much for Sharon Moore. And I know Michigan, if they're trying to negotiate, then if the Committee on Infractions was saying 6, so they said 2, thinking they were going to meet at 3. I think a lot of people are looking at it like that, and they may be right on it. But what I'm thinking about this whole thing is that Michigan was hit with the most punitive punishment almost of all time. Now, they didn't just come in and immediately shut down the program and give them the death penalty. Like, there's people that are acting like, the SMU. But Jim Harbaugh was 9-0 in a championship season and coming up to play a top 10 game on the road at Penn State. Then he was going to have to go and take another road game at Maryland and miss another top 10 game against Ohio State, the biggest game in the sport, suspended in real time as it was happening. And I still can't believe it, but I was just reminded of just how much of a suspension, how big of a deal that was. You look at all throughout, this guy's going to miss a game. This guy's going to miss 2 games. Sometimes it's just a game. And, it'll be a game like Central Michigan. Everybody's like, really? There's nothing to that. That was a huge suspension. And I know that Moore is, deleted the text. So that's why they're hitting him over the head with this suspension. But I'm just thinking out of, and I don't know how it ties in because that was the Big Ten. Are they looking at it? That's not something that they were discussing in Indy, but maybe they said, hey, you know what? You guys have already raked us over the coals pretty good. And in fact, an unprecedented suspension, 2 top 10 games, 2 road games right in the middle of a national championship season, I can only imagine. No, I don't want to imagine. I was going to say, what if, they would have dropped one of those games, but I mean, come on. The suspension was enough. Whenever I see it now, people have already talked about it because a lot of State fans and a lot of Ohio State fans, they're just going to keep pushing for, death penalty, or whatever they're pushing for. And a hammer. So what they keep saying. The hammer was applied to Michigan in 2023. I think it's a lot of where, and maybe you can almost understand from these other fan bases because they're like, wow, if they did that to Michigan in real time, they must really be coming after him now. I guess I can understand that logic. Christopher says, you think Michigan will fight any punishment or they take it on the chin? I think they would fight any punishment that had anything with any vacated games or postseason ban attached to it. I don't think they would fight a 3-game suspension. Why would you? I think it would be moved to New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Central. So the 2-gamer was that Michigan said, hey, it would be CMU and Nebraska. I think they would back it up to the first 3 games. So you're tacking on an extra game, but it's against New Mexico. Yeah, it's the start of the season. All the scenarios, makes it sound like it's going to be worse, but, so I don't know, but I talk about it anyways. So I don't think they would fight 3 games, but if it was 4 games, I'd fight it somehow. The part about taking it on the chin, I know people want to be aggressive, and I get fighting it because then they say discovery, because then you can find out who cracked into Stallion's computer or whatever else. And Discovery, well, you'd get to learn. Discovery, I believe, works both ways. Does Michigan want to open up their entire football office for however long that would take in Discovery and have to go through it and say, okay, so I feel a little bit, without being a lawyer or just watching this, the NCAA really has Michigan, and Michigan has to take it on the chin. Michigan has to self-impose penalties. They have to get down. Nobody likes getting down on one knee, bending the knee. Unless you're asking somebody to marry you. You don't like to get down on one knee to the NCAA and say, oh, I'm so sorry, but that's what they want. That's what they require. And it looks like that's the way that it's going. So I don't. 4 sounds like I would want to get in there, and I don't know if you have to fight them with, opening up and sue them, however that appeals. I'm at the point now where heading into the hearing, it's like, okay, the hearing, I thought it was going to be over. I thought that Michigan's lawyers, that they were sitting around, that they had negotiated a resolution. That's why Michigan put the 2 games out there, and this thing was going to be over. But then it was 45 days. Now Charlie Baker today said, no, it could be 90 days. And maybe this is, you get a bunch of lawyers in there and like, hey, we could play this out 90. We could probably file. They probably got some other motion they could probably file and say, we could play this out and make it another 90 days. We can make a couple million, I don't know. So sorry not to be able to answer that specifically. I am saying that my guess would be that, no, they'll be taking it on the chin. And I feel like people that say they want to fight, they're when they explain it, sure, people like talking about politics, but it's Michigan, they're gonna. There's not a lot there. Get down. I have felt like when you fight, sure, you could come up and get a better deal, but also it could go way to the other side where you don't want. I don't know how many people are considering that part. But I get it because you want to do something, sitting there and just bending the knee and saying, okay, whatever you say, we'll just take it. There's not a lot of fun. O-line, yeah, let's go. Keep it going. Bo says coach wants Ojo. Can you imagine the offensive line for the next 4 years? Drop the coin on this guy, my guy, Felix the Cat. Yeah, I can imagine. What I can imagine is that Michigan, who had a top 5 class last year, and it is right back in there where they've got a long time, but things are going well in recruiting. So yeah, why not? Why not just keep grabbing, the best players all across the country? Get this 5-star, get a couple more. And keep pulling them in. One 5-star makes you want, 5 5-stars. Just keep pulling them in, keep bolstering it, keep going, keep doing it. Yeah. The only other argument besides, just losing out to the other schools is that do you have to approach it in a situation where you only have, where you're looking at it as a salary cap? You have the position, the offensive line, and whatever you're saying, we're committing X amount of dollars to the players that they already have, but now looking forward, how much money are they actually going to put in there? I would think the part about making a competitive offer and being in the mix for a kid like this, makes you feel like, they, why would they waste their time if they're really looking at it? I thought that they were wasting their time with Jackson Cantwell, who was the number 1 overall tackle in the country. And had, was it Drew Rosenhaus or Scott Boras? He's got the super agent. And so, he's just going for the, you might as well say, hey, we're going for the most amount of money. If I was the number 1 player, I would be going for the most amount of money too. So would you. It doesn't mean he's a bad kid. It just means that he's ranked number 1 and he's going to get the most money. But, was Michigan really ready to give him the most money out of all those other teams? But this is another, if you were saying that about Cantwell, does the same thing apply to Ojo, who's not that further down? If you just look at the overall rankings, you know what I'm talking about? Anwar was at the Maryland game. That was a very entertaining game. And it was, you go back and you think about it, it was a lot, honestly, closer. Michigan had to make some big plays on defense. It was a scary game. Yeah, thanks. Smash the like button. That's it. There you go. There's some of the feedback that we have. So yesterday or the day before, Bryce Underwood put out this video. Here it is. Let's just watch it. I mean, you're Michigan fans. You're watching Good Afternoon Michigan football. I'm guessing you guys probably already have just watched this. So this is Underwood's video, and he's talking about off season, and then he's got a bunch of cuts. He's in the barber's chair. He's taking a snap under center. Here he is getting on the bus. Here he is running a hill. Another quarterback. There's a watch, championship banner, lifting weights, jumping around. Doesn't look fat at all. It was with Colston Loveland. Here he is airing one out. Here's one in slow motion. In the weight rooms, chilling. Nice smile. Great athlete. Running up and down the hill. Has some kind of dance. Maybe I should know what that is. Maybe graduation. Firing the football on the run. Firing it again. They slow it down. I like that. He's got a quick release. And here he is at the end. Looking pretty sweet. He's 17. He doesn't even look 19. He's got his 19 on there. I'm not sure he looks 19. But my impressions of this video, first is there was one, and we thought it was funny. It was the week of the spring game that he had taken some pictures, and people were saying that he was fat. They had a beer belly or something. Whatever. He was wearing a tight shirt. This video, he's jumping around with a lot of different weights and everything. He looks like he's in perfect shape. You could say, maybe you know more about the physiques than I do, but I'm just looking at it. What else is he? He looks like he looks ready to go to me. What else can you say about that? He does not look. I'll go back to the first thing that I thought. He's big, he's strong, and he doesn't look 17. He looks like he could be going and playing in the NFL right now. And this is the kind of, and I know, I don't think he can have any more hype than he does. And having said all of that, you go through it. I'll give you one, and it might be just because maybe it's because of my age. I don't like the quick edits. I like being able to, I get it, rapid edits. I see it a lot in videos. And maybe people think, yeah, you just flash. You just get like a flash of it, and then I don't like the rapid edits like that. I would like to be able to watch what's happening there. So maybe if I could slow it down 3 times slower than where it's at, maybe I would like it a little more. I'll admit that could be, 1, my age. 2, it could just be me, because I see a lot of people that go to Vegas and they go to that pool where they've got 100 TV screens, and people love going places for the NCAA tournament. They've got all the games going downtown Detroit, maybe some of the casinos that are running that back, and they've got 100 games going, and people come out and I'm like, oh yeah, they love it. I've done that. And I remember the NCAA tournament, the first time I did that, where they had all of these different, 6 banks of, or 6 TVs, and I watched them all. I was at the place that's not around anymore, Damon's, and I was there for 4 straight days of the NCAA tournament: Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the 4 days that you want to be there. And so I'm watching 12 hours of basketball. I got to Sunday night at the end. They're like, "What did you think?" And I'm like, I don't even know what I watched. There's just like a bunch of flashing TV. So could be me, could be my age. I don't. The edit's a little bit too much for me, but the kid physically. A lot of times you look at a freshman and say, "Oh, he's got to fill out. He looks like he's ready to go that way." Now it just comes down to you got to go through some things that you can't simulate in practice. And you'd say, well, what does that mean? I would say playing on the road at Oklahoma. Now, Michigan can, drive a chuck wagon around Glick Fieldhouse. They can bring speakers out with Boomer, whatever the Sooners are going to be able to do. Sea of Red, they'll cuss them out, do all these things. But until you go down there, you got to go through that. He's got to have that experience. I'm looking at it like this. This is how I've been looking at it. So if you've heard me say this, this is my approach with Bryce Underwood. There's a chance that maybe we are watching the greatest prospect quarterback to ever play the position, and he just hits the field, and it's just immediately spectacular. The guy's throwing it all over the place. He goes down to Oklahoma. He's like, yeah, I don't care about the crowd. And, me thinking that Michigan's going to run the ball more than less because or run it even more than people are expecting. And, just really taper it down for him in the early going because but maybe that's not what happens. Maybe he's just ready for it all. He's throwing dimes. He's throwing bombs. He looks great. He doesn't have to have any bumps in the road. Well, there's, like I said, there are some guys, the, one in a millions, one in a generation, which is less than one in a million, one in a, so I don't know, 1 in 100, I don't know if it'd be 1 in 100, 1 in 50, that it just, maybe he is that. I'm expecting that he's going to be a great player, but I would expect more that it would be next year. But I think that this year he can be serviceable enough that Michigan could win double-digit games. I think about I look at the 5 stars. Just today I was looking, and Pro Football Focus was ranking their quarterbacks, and there's 2 guys that almost everyone has up at their top of the list, and both of them were 5 stars. Cade Klubnik, who I watched play at Clemson and was not very good his freshman year, not very good in his sophomore year, and just really nothing that you would look at. You didn't like any of the numbers, but then last year he broke out. So it took him 3 years. Took him 3 years. First 2 years, he wasn't any good. And Aller's the same way. Now, neither of those guys really played a lot. I think Klubnik played the bowl game, and then Aller played here and there like JJ did when he was a freshman, but he wasn't impressive. And then in his sophomore year, he wasn't very impressive either. And then last year in the selected games that I watched him, I was not that impressed, but he was better and his numbers were better. And now he's looked at as those 2 guys could be the first 2 players taken off the board next year in the draft. But if you don't want to hear that, it's more likely. So I would say it's more likely that it's going to take a year for Bryce Underwood, even though those guys didn't play. It's going to take a year. You're going to have to, you take your lumps a little bit. And then he just hits the ground running, and he's just an instant superstar and number 1 pick. The things that could change that are a few things. One is that Michigan is not as quarterback reliant as other teams, in that the first thing, it's been the last 4 years, although last year I almost throw out. Michigan wants to play on offense like they did the previous 3 years. And a lot of that had to do with we're coming in and we're going to own the line of scrimmage, and we're going to run the ball a lot. It's going to set up the play action, and then that's going to help out our quarterback with everything. Teams can talk about that. There's a lot of lip service, and there's more teams that are trying that, but Michigan did it. And so you don't have to light it up. You don't have to be the greatest thing ever if you're Underwood. You can really spoon feed him at, maybe the entire year, and you could still get the 10 wins because they're not, again, that quarterback reliant like other teams. The other part and piece of it is that Michigan's defense could be, that's a it's really nice to have a defense that can go out there and get the ball back, a defense that is not giving up, where you don't have to score. You're giving up, I was going to say 20 points. Hell, you don't have to score 30 points. You don't have to air it out. So you're not as reliant on the quarterback, and then having a great defense and, special teams is pretty good too for U of M. All of that surrounding him. And so I would think it would be more of a situation. Maybe we go in between. Now he's not going to be bad, but he's not going to be probably not going to be the greatest thing right away. So somewhere in the middle, flashes pretty good, but Michigan can still win while bringing him along. That's a long answer. Let me see if I can cut that down. Hey, Dennis, how do you think Bryce Underwood's going to do this year? I think they're going to spoon feed him. And I think that they're going to run the ball a lot more than people expect, especially early on, while he gets accustomed as a kid that's going to turn 18 in August, to college football. And Michigan's got, on paper, an exceptional defense, and they're going to run the ball a lot, so he doesn't have to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. I could probably work on paring that down even more. I'll do that. So that's where I'm at. That's what I'm thinking. I've said that a few times. You can be like, wow, you're going to say this every time? Probably. People want to talk about Bryce Underwood. I'm going to work on my words and seeing if I can value those words where I can get it down to, it doesn't have to necessarily be a sentence or two, but get it down there. Tighten that up a little bit for Underwood. That's it. Ferris has joined the feedback, and wait a second, what is he saying here? Originally, he was saying happy 2020, and it's like, I was like, 2020 was the pandemic. Why are you saying happy? But no, that's not what he's saying. He is putting down 2020, but he's saying happy 2020, not the year 2020. Ferris is saying it has been 2,020 days since Ohio State beat Michigan in football. That is a long time. Ferris, I would say make a TikTok of that. How about that? Mr. Martini. Ooh, I like this. I like this angle. Bid for Cantwell just to force the other schools to have to pay more for him. Now this goes on. This goes on to the pros. Sign. Who was it that signed? Remember Sergei Fedorov, the great Red Wing, got an offer sheet for $27 million. This was a long time ago. I think it was Carolina. Carolina had no intention of signing Fedorov to some $27 million offer sheet, and it just made the Red Wings where they had to go, and everyone thought that they, that the Canes were doing that. Karmanos was their owner, and he was doing that just to stick it to Illich. That happens, and I like that angle. Let's see. Cut from a different cloth is going back to that Underwood video that I was talking about, where they said he was, quote unquote, fat. And he shortly put up a video on his YouTube channel, and a little kid asked him about his belly, and he showed him that there was no fat there. Yeah. Yeah, that's one of those things that people that aren't Michigan fans are going to play and just laugh about, and they don't really care if it's true or not. They just see a distorted photo, or maybe it wasn't even distorted, whatever it was, and they'll just run with it. They don't even care. They probably knew, but they didn't care, and they still don't care. So that was just that, and you're right. But it was about 48 hours. I remember going up to the spring game and thinking, okay, well, what am I looking for here? Number one, how does Underwood look? Is he going to look a little chubby first thing? I'm like, no, he looks great. So no, that was it. It was over. Yeah, it was the guys from the Buckeye side. Underwood looks like Santa Claus. Let's see. CFADC is saying Underwood's birthday is on the 19th of August. He chose that number because of that, and also because it's a different number than usual. He turns 18 this upcoming August the 19th. I like the talk of this. There he is, number 19. 19. So pick 19 because he's born on the 19th. So next year he'll be 19 on 19, right? So that'll be something. Always interesting why you pick the numbers that you're going to pick. I remember in football when I was a freshman, I wanted number 37. Lester Hayes, corner for the Raiders. I wanted 37. They didn't have 37. So they had 36. My dad said, Mike Haynes, 36. Okay, who's Mike Haynes? So I was 36. And then in basketball, I thought I wanted to be 11. I wanted to be 11 for Isaiah. We didn't have 11. And then I thought maybe 5 would be the number, but I don't. Did we not have a 5, or maybe somebody older had one? Ended up being 10. And then I spilled a Gatorade on my jersey. And so it must have been like a Friday night game, spilled red Gatorade on the jersey, go back Monday and see the jersey in there, Gatorade all over it. And so then I have to come back. And so then I'm washing it and I can't get the Gatorade out. And then I had to buy another jersey. And there was no more 10. So I ended up, I was like Kobe or LeBron or even Michael, I had 10, but then I was able to switch numbers and I was able to get a 20. I also had to, cough up like $75 or something for the jersey. I think I still have that jersey somewhere. But that's it. Let's go. I'm going to leave the any kind of ice talk, away from here a little bit. There we go. Klubnik got a little bit better, but he's still not impressive at a quarterback. I don't agree with the first round talk about him either. His numbers were a lot better last year. And maybe the quarterback position that we're looking at, if we're the thing that I think, if we're thinking about Aller and Klubnik, and so you could say Arch Manning, but Arch Manning, a lot of people believe that, Arch Manning's a lot of hype because of his name. And if we're just basing it on what we saw, we really haven't seen a lot from him. So we're basing everything on him just being the 5-star. And so Texas fans, and it's the same thing with Michigan. We've seen Underwood playing high. Well, we're expecting a lot from him because he's a 5-star. Texas is expecting Arch Manning. I've seen him a little bit. Did he play in any game? I guess what's his name, got knocked out. Ewers got knocked out a little bit. And then they were getting smoked by, who was it, Georgia that second time around. And then, I don't know, Arch Manning. If you're not buying the Klubnik is number 1, you're probably not buying the Arch is number 1. I'm not buying the Aller is number 1. John Mateer, who Michigan will see. I've just watched his highlight package, and it's impressive. He reminds me a lot of Bo Nix when he was at Oregon or for the Broncos. Real athletic pass mobile quarterback. Ripstar talking about Coca-Cola, and he's saying it's 100% with the pure cane sugar. It is. As someone who has tried both, you can, after a while, you would never go back and drink any kind of, so you probably shouldn't drink too much soda to begin with. I know that. But high fructose corn syrup compared to cane sugar, I mean, you can tell after a little bit. That's it. The IU quarterback, Mendoza, is being hyped. That's a good one. He is being very hyped up. You're right about that. It's been 2,020 days since OSU hasn't hung 100 points on Michigan. That's right. From, that's a long name. Tuco. What's up, Tuco? More. I do aim to play a little bit. Hit the Borg. Basketball talk. I'm going to fill that boy up one of these days. Be fun. Ipsy Brent. Nice to see him. All right, I'm going to answer some questions here for the next 5 minutes or so. The top people have all kinds of trainers. Underwood will be fine. They just need to give him easy throws as he gets used to the speed of college football and support him with a strong running game. Yeah, they'll give him easy throw. I don't know. Is it as easy as that? I mean, so he'll be fine. Maybe he'll be fine. I think fine. I don't think he's going to be bad. I don't think they're going to put him in position where he's going to be bad. Now, I think he's going to throw an interception or two. That doesn't mean he's bad. I think he could still be fine there. And so, I don't know, do they give him easy throws? I don't know about easy throws because he can really air it out. And if he's making 30, 40-yard throws down the field and guys are getting open in certain spots, I mean, that's not an easy throw, but, play to his strengths and what he can do. Linebackers seem we're lacking there. Off the top of my head, can I think of any linebacker? Not off the top of my head. Smash the numbers saying that I've been watching his TikTok. Yeah, they've been showing up. Michigan football stuff shows up on my feed. And, I see Ferris in there picking it up and laying it down. Michigan Go 1, 2, 3, 4 is helping the show out. We're going to put that money back into the show. Keep up the great content. Go Tigers. 20 games over 500 since the first time since 2013. Yeah, the Tigers, it is, to me, must watch all the time. Now, this is the next 4 days I'm going to love. I really like the majors in golf. And so the U.S. Open at Oakmont, it's going to start tomorrow. I really don't care who wins. It's just, I like how it starts early and how you can really watch 8 hours of golf every day. It's fabulous. I could complain about every year the people are always saying it's not fair. It's not golf. Why do they have to trick the course up? If they did it all of the time, like they are doing Oakmont, where, the rough, you can't, advance it. You just have to punch out. Then there would be a point, because generally sports fans like scoring. You like seeing birdies. You want to see some eagles. You want guys firing it at the pin, but it's the U.S. Open. It's like a World Series game. I wouldn't mind seeing Scooble pitch a 1-0 game of the World Series. I remember when Verlander in back-to-back years, was it Sonny Gray in back-to-back years in a Game 5 of 1-0 games? I mean, there's nothing better than that. Oakmont's the defense. Even par could win it. Okay, so yeah, golf. I'm looking at this and I'm like, wow, so am I talking about golf when the Tigers are up there? My point is that these next 4 days, we've got the U.S. Open. You've got the NBA finals today and Friday. You've got the NHL Game 4 and Game 5 Thursday and Saturday. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That's nice. And then the Tigers, after they get done with the Orioles here, they're coming home for a 6-game homestand at the Reds and then the Pirates. And the ballpark being packed like it was last week against the Cubs, and because of how they're playing, the lead that they have now in the Central, it is the place to be. Father's Day weekend, I would expect that, every game to be sold out this weekend, and it's such a difference going down to the games when nobody cares if they win or lose. You sit in the game. Sure, it's still fun. I liked going to the ballpark, and I didn't mind being able to drive up 15 minutes before the game started, and then when the game's over, just get in the car, no traffic, and you're done. A lot different when you got 40,000. It's going to take you a couple hours each way, but man, the games, they're sitting there and it's packed like that. It's awesome. It really is. I'm with you. Thank you. Let's see. Mr. Martini says the only thing fat about Bryce is his wallet. There we are. Rip wanted number 420. Michigan owns Ohio State. True. Let's just Ferris will be in town. He's going to the Tigers game. It's been a while. Any Comerica advice? Is that a day game? Don't sit out in left field for the first 3 innings if it's a day game, because that sun beats right in on you. No, I don't think you need it. Need anything. I would say, prepare to get into that wallet a little bit, but if you're going down to a ball game, you can't be worried about that. It's a great time. It's an awesome time. I think you'll love it. Yeah, day game. Maybe drink a lot of fluids, and if you're sitting out, if you're already got the tickets, you can't do anything about it, but you can get in some of those spots where you are in the shade. Sometimes Ripstar does, throw me off. Get a hat, Ferris. Wear your Michigan hat down there, and you'll do that. All right, so that's it. Yeah, I like people like this. You're just looking for a little standing room only, walk around, get some cheap seats. If I was doing that, I like to get there early. You get some batting practice. You probably get a baseball. You can sit in the outfield. Then you can do all the walking around you want. But then even if you have the cheap seats, you go up to those cheap seats, because actually the cheap seats, the view in the upper deck of Detroit in the cheap seats are the place you want to be. You sit down, and then you go up to the upper deck, and you're like, wow. You just sit around looking at the city for an inning or two. So I would suggest getting there super early. And then for batting practice, going up to your cheap seats, taking in the view of the entire city, and then you're talking about standing around, then you're just walking around for the rest of the game. But it's going to be packed. But Thursday in a day game, you might be all right. That's it. All right, so things going good for Michigan on the recruiting trail. I don't necessarily believe in the momentum from player to player, but I get it from, for all of us. Like, hey, they got one, got another one. They got momentum. Well, yeah, they do. It doesn't mean they're going to get another one coming up, but if they do, then it feels like they've got more momentum, which is a weird thing, but it's that's it. And it's great to be with you. I'm looking for, I said I put the money that people have given the show, we'll put it back into the show. I'm looking to get a camera, a fancier camera. So we'll see just how much higher resolution I will look for the next time. Maybe when we get that in there, maybe we'll fill that Borg up as well. Taking this 1 hour show, Michigan football. Thanks so much. We'll see you over on the Maize and Blue Review. We invite you to come over there all the time. I think you should go over there. You like Michigan. You want to talk about Michigan. you want to see what's new with Michigan, join the Maize and Blue Review today by going to michigan.rivals.com. Until Friday, we'll talk with you. Everybody have a great rest of their Wednesday, and we will talk with you on Friday. Goodbye, everybody.